Hello, my name is Paula Deming, and it's time for another very serious, not a parody, board game top 10 list. I was recently at the board game convention AirCon in the UK, and I was also thinking about the board game convention Dice Tower West, which was happening the very same weekend in Las Vegas. Which is why I was only thinking about Dice Tower West instead of attending, because I've seen enough 90s sitcoms to know it's never a good idea to try to be in two places at once. Different conventions focus on different things. Some focus on showing off hot new releases. Some focus on buying and selling games, and some focus on just sitting around and playing games. And that's something that I think AirCon and Dice Tower West have in common. They're both mostly about playing games. So I started thinking about the kinds of games I find myself playing at conventions and what I think works best in a convention setting. And that brings us to my top 10 convention games. Now, what I'm after in a convention game experience might be a bit different from what you're after in a convention game experience. So at the end of this list, I'll be doing some quick-fire honorable mentions sourced from my Patreon supporters. Number 10. Conventions are the perfect place to play a game that requires a larger group that you might not be able to get organized for a regular game night, which is why Blood on the Clock Tower is my number 10 game. This is a social deduction game similar to Werewolf, but if your character is killed, you still get to play an active role in the game. There's a huge variety of roles that can be assigned to players, and lots of bluffing and lying and trickery. I only want to play this game in a convention setting. If you sign up for an organized game of it, you're going to get someone running the game for you who knows it really well, which is more likely to give you a smooth and immersive experience. You're also more likely to be playing with a larger group size who all want to be there. Sometimes trying to play a social deduction game at a regular game night means roping in some people who aren't really into it and won't buy in, and that can kind of sour the experience of the game, right? But at a convention, the people who signed up to play probably really want to be there, and that is the ideal way to play something that has such a social and interactive component to it. Number 9. When I'm at a convention, I am often looking for games that can play quickly. That's because I might be needing to run off to a work obligation, but also mostly because I'm easily distracted at a convention. It's a lot of stimulus and it's overwhelming, and I'm always thinking like, who's over there? Oh, what game is that? Oh, I want to go check that out. So quick and simple games are a convention go-to for me because they're what I'm able to focus on. And one that is a lot of shouty fun is P for Pizza. This is a word association game where you have triangle-shaped cards that match up letters with categories, and you need to be the first person to shout out something in that category that starts with the matching letter. That wins you the card, which you can use to build a giant slice of pizza. It's quick and shouty and silly, and it always goes over really well. You'll just want to play it in an area where it isn't too loud so that you can hear what the other players are shouting. Number 8, it's Crokinole. This is such a great, classic dexterity game. It's ranked number 54 on Board Game Geek, so I have pretty good taste. And its year of release is listed as 1876, so it's old. But it requires a large wooden board that can be pretty pricey and hard to store because of its size, so it's not really the easiest game to have an opportunity to play. But you can just about always find tables of it set up at a convention, and if you do, you've got to take advantage of it and play this game. Players take turns flicking circular wooden discs across a circular wooden board, trying to get your disc to land in certain areas of the board to score points, with extra points if you sink the disc right in the middle of the board, which is so satisfying. You can also knock your opponent's discs around with your own and ruin their plans. Diabolical. It's unreasonably fun and lovely and feels really good to play from a purely tactile perspective. And a convention is the perfect place to play it without having to commit to owning it and finding somewhere in your home to keep it. Number 7. This is another dexterity game, but it's really different from Crokinole. It's fast-paced, frantic, and perfect for people like me who love air hockey. It's Clask. This is another game with a special wooden board that takes up more space than a typical game and might be harder for you to have in your own home, though it is much easier to fit on a shelf than Crokinole. But Klask is very likely to have a booth set up at a convention with a ton of copies set out for you to walk up to and start playing. It's a great convention activity, and if you have kids with you, it's perfect for them too. In Klask, you're trying to hit a ball into your opponent's goal using these magnetic sticks that you operate from underneath the board. There are also magnets on the field that might stick to your stick. If that happens, your opponent scores. If you accidentally knock your own stick into the hole that is your own goal, your opponent scores. If your opponent knocks the ball into your goal, your opponent scores, etc. Can you tell that I don't score very often in this game? It's all about my opponent scoring. It's wacky, high energy, dexterity silliness, and that's honestly everything I want while at a convention. Number 6. This game was introduced to me at a convention by Rodney Smith. Did you know I make videos for Watch It Played? Go check them out. And this game is so great, and it's so fun. It's called Deja Vu, and it's another game that is quick and silly and energetic. It can play up to 6 people, which is great for when you have a semi-larger group gathered at a convention. You can teach it as you play, and it's over in about 15 minutes. So it's perfect for when your group can't pick a game to borrow from the library. You pull this out, give it a go, and you'll still have time afterwards to sit down for whatever they finally decide on. In Deja Vu, you have a bunch of tokens with images on them in the middle of the table, and they're all different, but also deceptively similar to each other. Then you start flipping over cards that have those images printed on them. If a card flips over and you think you've seen that image on a previous card, grab the token from the table. Did you see the life vest? Or was it actually the cone? If a later card flip reveals that the token you grabbed hadn't already been seen twice, you're out of the round. At the end, you score based on how many correct tokens you grabbed, and then you play 2 more rounds. Each round, it gets harder to remember. Did I see that already this round? Or was that last round? You start to question everything, and people are frantically grabbing for tokens and then having immediate regrets, and it's equally wonderful and horrible to play late at night when everyone is already tired. It's so simple and so good, and it makes me laugh with my friends. Number 5, Strike. If you play Strike at a convention, you will end up with curious people coming over to see what the heck you're having such a good time playing. This game was also introduced to me at a convention, and I fell in love with it. It can play 2 to 5, and it's all about chucking dice into a bowl inside of the game box and getting matching values. You roll 1 die at a time, and if you get any matches, you take those dice and then your turn ends. You don't get any matches, you can keep going, or you can pass to the next player. If the bowl is ever empty at the start of your turn, you have to throw all your dice in and see what you get. If you run out of dice, you're out, and the last player with dice remaining wins. Look, it's got dice rolling, which I love. It's got push your luck. It's got the kind of mishaps that can only happen in a dexterity game where you chuck a die and things go flying and everyone starts laughing. It's another game that teaches in about 30 seconds and plays for about 10 or 15 minutes. And to me, as you can tell, that makes it just perfect for a convention. Number 4, I was introduced to this game at AirCon 2022, right as it was being re-released by Oink Games and becoming the new hotness, and it is Scout. Scout will always come with me to conventions from now on because it's so small. It's perfect to throw in a bag or a suitcase and carry around and pull out and play. Combine that with it being really fun and easy to teach, and it has to go on this list. Scout is a ladder climbing game. That means that someone plays a card or set of cards, and then the next player has to play down a set of cards of equal or higher value. Then the next player has to meet or beat those cards, and so forth and so on, like you're climbing a ladder. In Scout, you want to get rid of as many cards in your hand as you can because there are negative points at the end of the round. You also earn points if you play a set and the other players can't beat the value of what you played. The trick here is that each card has 2 values on it, and once your cards are dealt to you, you decide which way you want them to face for which values you want, but then you can't rearrange your hand. And the sets of cards you play have to be adjacent to each other already in your hand. If you can't play anything, You scout a card from what's on the table, and then you can put it anywhere you want in your hand, which might help you create a really high value set. There's some push your luck involved and some really tricky decisions about when to play and when to scout, because sometimes you might want to scout even if you can play because you're trying to build a really high value set that's going to be harder for everyone else to beat. And I just don't think this game will ever get old. Number 3. This is another small-ish card game that is easy to carry around and pull out, which makes it ideal for a convention, and it's got a campaign narrative, so you can play it for just a few minutes if you want to do not the narrative, or for a lot longer if you want to do the campaign narrative, and you can pause and come back to it throughout the con. It's The Crew, specifically Mission Deep Sea, but really either version is good. This was the game of the con for me at AirCon 2020, and it stayed one of my top games ever since. I rarely meet a trick-taking game I don't like, and The Crew is cooperative trick-taking with missions and very limited table talk / player communication, and it's just one of the best games ever. The missions might be something like one person has to win the pink 5, and another person can't win any pink cards at all, and another needs to specifically win whatever the third trick of the round is. When you all get on the same page and magically complete a really tricky mission as a team without ever telling each other what cards are in your hand, no accomplishment feels as good as that. Number 2, Yokai Septet is a game I picked up at PAX Unplugged at the end of 2022, but didn't actually get to play until AirCon this year, which is 2023 if you're watching this in the future. It's another trick-taking game. I love them, and the reason I think this is a great convention game is that it plays best at 4 players, and finding 3 other people to play a game with you at a convention should be pretty easy. It's another game that's super easy to carry around and isn't a huge time commitment. Play for 20 minutes and then run off to the next panel you wanted to go see, or a demo you have scheduled, or that meetup you wanted to do. You play Yokai Septet in teams of 2v2, and your goal is for your team to win 4 tricks that contain boss yokai cards, which are value 7, before you win 7 total tricks. Winning 7 tricks before you have 4 boss cards will lose you the hand. And the suits in this game have different values, so in some, the 7 card, the boss card, is on the high end of that suit, and in another suit, it might be the lowest card in that suit, or it might be in the middle of the values. So each boss card is going to require a different strategy to win, and if a trick doesn't have a boss card in it, you really don't want to win it. And that's what makes this game so great, knowing when to try and win a trick, and when to try and lose a trick, and gosh, forcing the other team to take a trick I know they don't want makes me feel so dang smart and tricksy, and I love it. It's an amazing trick-taking game. And again, the size, the length of the game, the player count, it makes it really great for a convention, as evidenced by the fact that I played it 4 times at AirCon this year. Number 1. This game was actually an honorable mention on my top games of 2022 list, but it wins the number 1 spot on this list because it is by far the game I played the most at AirCon 2023, and I think it's going to continue to get a lot of convention play. It's Sea Salt and Paper. Again, there's a running theme here. A small box card game that's easy to teach, quick to play, and able to be thrown into a bag and carried around all day at a convention. Plus, it's so beautiful to look at. It's dang good, y'all. In Sea Salt and Paper, you're set collecting. On your turn, you'll draw 2 cards from the deck and choose one to keep, discarding the other into one of the 2 face-up piles, or you'll take 1 card from one of those face-up piles. If you have 2 cards in your hand that match, you can play them down in front of you to activate their special power. So 2 sailboats get you another turn, 2 crabs lets you take a card from one of the face-up discard piles, a shark and a swimmer pair let you steal a card from the hand of an opponent, etc. When you have 7 points from cards in your hand or played in front of you, you can end the round and score your points. And this is where you can push your luck a bit with a tricky decision. Do you call stop and let everyone score whatever card points they have? So I have 8, and you get 5, and you get 6. Or do you call last chance and give everyone else 1 more round, betting that they won't have as many points as you do at the end of that last round? If you bet correctly, you'll score your cards, plus a bonus for the color of cards you have the most of, and everyone else just scores their color bonus. But if you're wrong, everyone else gets their full score and you just get your color bonus. risky. There's a fair amount of luck involved in the card draw, but also it's quick, so it never feels too bad if you're unlucky. And it's fascinating that depending on the style of the people I'm playing with, the game can feel really different. So some people want to call last chance a lot, and some people always want to just call stop and let everyone score, and some people really use the shark and swimmer to steal cards, and some people just ignore that. And each of these styles totally changes how the game plays out, and I love that. And I played it more than 6 times at AirCon, and it never got old. So as you can see, I have a specific style of game that I like to play at a convention. But that might not be the style of game you like for conventions. So with that in mind, here are some quick fire honorable mentions provided by my patrons. And if they sound interesting to you, go check them out. Hey y'all, jumping in real quick from the editing room with a last minute editor's honorable mention edition. I just played Veiled Fate for the first time, and I had to jump in now and add it to this list because if I had played it before I filmed the rest of this list, it would be on the actual list. It would 100% be in the top 10 of this. But because I didn't, and I've not actually played it at a convention, it is an honorable mention, a special honorable mention spot. So here we go. Veiled Fate, strategic, social deduction, misdirection and mischief, high player count, secret teams? Seriously, this is a perfect convention game. I am so excited to have played it. I loved it. I can't wait to play it more. Okay, back to the regularly scheduled Patreon submitted honorable mentions. Raw, Reiner Knizia, auction bidding, set collection, push your luck, plays in under 2 hours, can get raucous. Precarian, steampunk magicians, heavy euro, longer playtime, so it might be easier to get convention goers to commit to that compared to your regular gaming group. 7 Wonders, good for larger groups, not too long, but more than a filler, requires some thinking and strategy, but won't overtax your brain. Sidereal Confluence, sci-fi trading and negotiation, best at higher player counts, plays up to 9, highly interactive, longer playtime, so perfect for people looking for a convention experience that's a time investment. And here are some great late night, large group games. Dead Last, a social collusion game, betray your friends. Liar's Dice, so much bluffing. Can't Stop, ultimate push your luck dice rolling. Pit, frantic card trading and shouting with the tagline, the world's liveliest game. So there you have it, my top 10 convention games. Let me know what you like to play at conventions down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'll be doing more of these from time to time, so stay tuned for those, along with some board game playthroughs for my Twitch streams, and of course, Things Get Dicey sketch comedy. If you'd like to support what I'm doing here on YouTube, you can join my Patreon or buy some sweet merch. Okay, that's all. Thanks. Bye.